Welcome to Relationship Real Talk, Live the Lives podcast. For over 20 years, we've been dedicated to strengthening marriages and families through relationship education. Our core goals are to reduce the Florida divorce rate by 50% by 2029, to increase the marriage rate, and reduce teen pregnancy and out-of-wedlock births. For more information about us, you can visit us at livethelife.org.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Relationship Real Talk. My name is Cameron. This is my wife, Ashley.
Yes, we are excited to be talking about conflict today, which I'm sure everybody is just super excited to learn about, talk about, and do.
Probably super good at it already, too.
Oh, absolutely.
I doubt anybody needs to listen to this podcast.
Oh, for sure. Nobody needs help with conflict.
Yeah, I would say
us.
that is probably the most well-taught skill for marriage and premarital is how to resolve conflict.
Hands down. Yeah. Absolutely.
But just in case you haven't learned that,
for sure.
we'll give our best advice that we can.
Yeah, just two humble kids, married.
Who are also figuring out as we go along,
exactly.
And we'll tell you anything that we've learned.
Yeah, we just do the skills that we love, and that's how we make it through.
Exactly.
But yeah, a little bit about conflict. So I'll start with just talking about how I think conflict actually does get a really bad rap in our society today, because it is something that I think pretty much everyone on the planet associates with loneliness. And I say that because I think if you've ever seen an argument, I mean, genuinely, everybody who looks at an argument or watches an argument feels uncomfortable, right? Because there's so much tension and there's so much, it could be animosity, it could be yelling, but you just feel uncomfortable because you know something is happening and it could lead to one person being alone, right? Yeah. Because when we watch conflict, it's usually like this person is yelling, this person is being yelled at, this person removes themselves from the conflict or the whatever, and that could potentially usually lead to a breakup, a divorce, that kind of stuff. So in our brains, we associate, and I'm just like very vaguely, very broadly saying this, but I think we associate conflict with the end of a relationship. And so again, I think conflict has a bad rap because conflict done in the right way and in a healthy way actually should be leading towards growth and towards bonding.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know how to resolve conflict.
Correct.
And so we want to give you some practical examples of how to resolve conflict.
Right.
One of those being, a skill that we teach, the US card.
Right.
And do you want to go into...
Well, we can, but I was going to say too, like, what was some of your experiences growing up with conflict, whether it was your parents, whether it was your friends' parents? Like, do you have anything that like sticks out in your mind about conflict?
I was raised on how to resolve conflict by never talking about it.
Perfect.
Yeah. By just bury it deep down. Mm-hmm. Don't talk about it. Get over it, and you'll be fine. Because I mean, I didn't know how to resolve conflict growing up. I was never taught how to. Again, it's like I was joking about, but that's not something they ever teach in school. They never teach how to resolve conflict. They never teach how to have healthy relationships. They never teach that. They're more, I'll teach you math and what's the capital of Wisconsin. Right. But they're not going to teach you, practical life things that will help you, more on in life. And that's why one of the reasons why we go into middle and high schools with the True North Project, teaching real essentials and teaching them this is how to have conflict resolution. This is how to have happy, healthy relationships, whether it be friendships or, later down in life, marriages and girlfriends and boyfriends and everything. We want to teach these kids how to do that when they're still able to learn that, because it gets tougher to learn as you grow up.
Oh, for sure. Because
you get so stuck in your ways.
Right.
And you can get very stuck in this just rut that you're in, that this is the way I go, that, you're so under your rut has gone so far underground now where you can't see out of it.
Right.
To where you need help being lifted out of that. And for a lot of people, it's difficult to ask for help. A lot of people don't want to ask for help, especially, it's a very prideful thing. And I mean, I can also say a lot of men don't want to ask for help because, you're a man, you got to pull yourself by your bootstraps. You got to do it yourself. You got to figure it out on your own. You got to, do all these things. It's a very prideful way to think. And that's not why that's not why we were created. That's not the intention behind us being husbands, is to never ask for help either.
Right.
So,
of course. And I think we actually have a similar story about our parents in conflict. I remember, even though my parents had these skills, they must have done them behind closed doors, because I don't ever remember my parents fighting.
yeah.
And so I thought a normal marriage was just, two people getting along, always on the same page, which obviously that's not true. But I remember I was a senior in high school. I was 18 years old, and my parents took me on my senior trip, and we were in Maine, and I saw them fight for the first time. And I remember genuinely thinking, I was like, they're gonna get a divorce. This is it. This is the end of my parents' marriage. But I mean, again, like I do kind of wish that they had practiced skills in front of me. So not only would I learn couples fight, but I would have learned the right way to fight, quote unquote, because again, I was so scared, and I just never experienced that. And I had seen, obviously, friends fighting. I had experienced fighting with my own friends. I've experienced my friends' parents fighting, all of those things. And I do wish that I had my parents. And of course, there are some things that you don't talk about in front of your kids, but like, a smaller thing, like, hey, like having my parents sit down and say, hey, can we do a heart to heart? And it probably would have been hard. There were 5 kids, and we probably would have interrupted them, but I think it would have been really good for me, at least, to see them sitting and talking about something serious, whether it was at the dinner table, and like, again, not during dinner, but just like seeing my parents speak about something serious in a way that was honoring and respectful. Because now that I know the skill, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's probably what they were doing behind closed doors. But I do think, again, that's just something that's not taught. And so what a cool way for your parents to teach you is to do it in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. I have a very similar story with that,
Yeah.
Mom and dad got in an argument, and me and my brother, we shared a room at the time. We were talking about like what holidays were going to look like.
Right.
We were talking about like who's going to go stay with mom, who's going to go stay with dad.
Yeah.
And we were that was a serious discussion me and my brother had.
For sure.
We're 11 months apart.
Yeah.
So we were like, all right, well, this is it. Like, who's going to be with mom, who's going to be with dad?
Yeah.
Because I think I was like 12, 13. I didn't know argument.
Right.
I mean, I didn't know they fought. I didn't know they had arguments. I didn't know they had disagreements.
Yeah.
Because they were, they did a really good job at like showing that united front.
Right.
We're just like, okay, like, hey, we're gonna be on the same side when we're, in front of people.
Right.
Because it's not good to show the like, because especially with kids, if they see mom and if I say, hey, can we go get ice cream, and one says yes, one says no.
Right.
Oh, a kid's gonna know how to manipulate that. Kids are great manipulators. They don't realize, like, I don't know how they learn it, but their kids are some great manipulators.
Yeah.
Like, I know Rachel telling us stories with Judah and just talking about like, or like Jordan was telling us a story about how, it's taking his kid to bed, taking Judah to bed. And he's just like, where's mom?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, mom's downstairs. I want to see her. And just using every excuse in the world to not go to bed. I'm so sad.
Yeah,
I'm scared.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
he's using every excuse in the book to not go to bed.
Yeah.
We did that as kids too.
Oh, for sure.
And I would have taken that, and like I said, this story about the example about, ice cream. I would have taken every moment to be like, ooh, well, mom wants to go get ice cream. We should go get ice cream.
Right.
Or like dad wants to go get ice cream. We should go get ice cream. So they have that. To have that united front's important. We're going to need to have that around our daughter.
Yes,
but it's also, I agree with you as well. Like, I want to show our daughter that conflict is not the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Having a discussion and a conflict, or even like an argument, like, as long as it's a healthy argument, we're not calling each other names. We're not raising our voices. We can have disagreements. We can have arguments. Mm-hmm. But I want our daughter to realize that it's okay to have disagreements.
Right.
It's okay to have conflict. But also, here's how to resolve it. Mm-hmm. Because just the same way I want to, show our daughter that it's okay to have emotions. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad.
Yeah.
But also, here are ways to get over that. Here are ways to forgive.
Right.
Here are ways to, if you're sad, how can we, not avoid the sadness, but how can we go into that and say, all right, like, how do we get over it together?
Yeah.
So that's the examples I want to show our daughter, especially with the conflict resolution. Like, I want her to see that, because yeah, you and I didn't see that growing up, and I don't want
Right.
one argument between us, and now our daughter thinks we're gonna get divorced, and
Right.
like
Of
because I don't want her
course.
to live in fear of that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's funny too because you were saying like your family, like you didn't really talk about like the whatever there were like conflict avoidant, but
Yeah,
my family was very conflict like meet it head on.
yeah,
But like my parents weren't like that. Like me, I can remember me and my dad and my brother and my sister like all yelling, and of course like we're all like lions and like very strong personalities, so it
what?
gave us, I know, right, it gave us life to do that. But then, again, having it be my parents, like, so I yeah, I do think that the conflict, if done in the right way, and I think that's actually also one of the things during our classes people dread the most, but then end up enjoying the most
Yeah,
because they see, wait, there actually is a way to have conflict and not
yeah.
want to be on the opposite end of the world from the other person afterwards.
And it's one of the most loving things you can do
Right.
is like have conflict resolution.
Correct.
And I like you're a lion, I'm a golden retriever.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for me to want to have conflict,
Right.
but it's one of the most loving things I can do with you
Right.
is to tell you, hey, this hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
Because how do you know
Right.
it hurt me? If you can't, I'm usually pretty easy to read, but like you also can't read my mind.
Yeah.
Like if I put on a good front and you'll never think, wow, like I hurt Cameron's feelings.
Well, I mean, I'll know, but I'll have no idea why.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I might be over here thinking like, I did this, and it's you feeling something completely different. So I don't know how to change it in the future to do better.
But that's going into like, what, it's one of the most loving things I can do with our relationship is tell you, hey, this hurt me. Because with you, it's easy to be like, hey, this hurt my feelings. And for me, it's really easy to be like, okay, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize. Because I want us to be good. I want their, I'm not like trying to speed run conflict resolution, but I'm like, I hear you and I'm like, okay, like I understand.
Right.
Because it can be easy for me at times to take risks and be like, okay, cool, got it.
Mm-hmm.
But reversed,
Right.
it can be difficult.
Right.
It can be difficult for me to say, hey, this hurt my feelings. And it can be difficult at times for you to be like, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Because you want to defend yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And early on in our relationship, when we were just dating, I didn't want to come to you with things because I didn't want to have to, get in front of a judge, it felt like. Of just like, all right, well, you need to give me examples. You need to tell me why, how, when, where, what. Like, for me, sometimes it's just like, this is how I felt.
Yeah.
And and most of the times, either way, it's like, I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mean it like that. A lot of times it can be misunderstandings as well.
Right.
One of us can make a joke and it's like, hey, that hurt my feelings. Okay, my bad. I didn't even mean it like that.
Yeah.
And this is what I meant by that. I apologize. I won't do it again. And that's all it takes.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes there are bigger issues.
Right, of course.
Like if there's infidelity or if there's, lying, stuff like that. Like it takes longer to resolve conflict like that, for sure. Sometimes it's good to go to therapy or counseling or, figure that stuff out. But have the goal to be forgiveness.
Yeah.
Like, and have the goal be conflict resolution.
Yeah.
Instead of, my goal is to like, how I feel and like, I'm going to be right. It's going to be, me, or, you, like make it about us.
Right.
Make it about how can we get through this?
Yeah.
Not how can I pin this on you or vice versa or whatever like that. Or how can I make myself look good and be like, oh, I didn't mean it like that because this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Like you can't tell me 3 examples, blah, blah, blah. It's like, that doesn't matter sometimes.
Right.
I don't care about examples. Just tell me what happened because I'm terrible with giving you examples. If you were to be like, hey, tell me when, I'd be like, I don't know. I just felt it. I know that. I know it's true though.
I can't tell you what happened. I can tell you how I felt when it happened.
Exactly. And you do such a great job with grace and understanding through that and being like, okay, like I get it. It's okay. Like I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out.
Are you okay if I talk about the other night with your school project?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was going to say too, because like it's easy for me to see, I don't know, I guess it's just how you portray or if I know you very well, but I just like know when there's something going on with you. And so like, the other night you're working on your school project, you're going to turn it in,
I had to
and
do my voiceover.
you had to do your voiceover, and I was like, "Can I give you some feedback?" Because again, for me, like I see you going through these classes. I know your grades really matter for getting like internships, all that kind of stuff. And I was
I
like,
said no.
yeah, you were pretty much like, no.
I was like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, please let me push back. Like, there are some really important insights I really feel like you need to hear. And you just like shut down so immediately. And I was just like, okay, like, can we talk about this? Can I please be let into what's happening with you? Because I think your perspective was, and actually, I'll just talk to my perspective. You can talk to your perspective. But my perspective was, I want you to succeed. And I know you can do this project better. And I know you have the capability of being your best, and I want you to put that forward. And I also think there's like an edge of like, okay, well, being excellent takes a lot of work, and this is just a stupid class, but this is something you want to do, and this is something you're passionate about, like, and how can we portray your passion? So like that's where I was coming from. I'll let you talk to like where you were when we were having that discussion.
Well, yeah, like for me it's like I just want to get this over with. Like I'll get an A on it. I know I'm going to get an A on it. Like I did everything that needs to be done. Like it's okay. Like I'll be fine. But I also understood of, well, work on it now and perfect it now. So I don't have to get into the business and then be like, hey, like, what are you doing?
Right.
Like, I want to grow at it now instead of skating and then having to grow later on. Because I mean, that's why I'm in college now and not when I was 18, 19.
Yeah.
That's why I'm 26 now and going to college, because it's like now I know what I want to do and now I'm ready to work for it.
Right.
So yeah, but for me it was like it was a shutting down, because I was so transfixed on like I want to get this done, but I also didn't want to show any emotion during. I didn't want to like try my hardest during that because you were in the room. And I didn't want to feel embarrassed.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't want to. I'm so worried about like feeling embarrassed or feeling cringe and just being like, oh my gosh, this is the cringiest thing ever. Or people having negative thoughts about what I'm doing. And it's because I care too much about people's opinions. Mm-hmm. But also like I should care about your opinion. And I do care about your opinion because you're my wife. I want to know your opinions of me because I trust you. In hindsight.
You can see, yeah.
In hindsight, I'm like, yeah, cool. When I look at, a couple nights ago, when I looked at Sunday night, like now I'm like, you're an idiot. But in that Sunday night, I was like, don't talk to me.
Right.
Like, I'm literally about to walk into a different room. Do not follow me. I'm going to be there for the next hour, just trying to get over this. But because you're persistent and because you're like, no, you need to push through this and talk. I was starting to understand in my head. It was getting clear. Like, okay, I need to push through what I'm doing right now. And like, it's like a physical hurt. Yeah. There's like a physical pain when it comes to like push through it.
Right.
Because it's anxiety. It's like different feelings and thoughts of, am I good enough? Like, am I going to be good at this?
Right.
Am I going to try and then sound really bad and it's going to be embarrassing?
Yeah. Because
when you sound good, it's not embarrassing. But when you sound bad, it's like, why did I do that?
Well, I wasn't even trying.
Or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So having to push through that and push through that physical like pain and that physical hurt, and realizing that like Ashley has the best intentions for me. She is not bringing this up to embarrass me or to harm me or to make fun of me or to ridicule me. She's doing this because she wants the best for me, and because she loves me and cares about me and knows that I'm passionate about this and knows I can do better. Because even though I know I can do better, I'm okay with skating. But because you know I can do better, you don't want me to skate. You want me to be better. And you want me to show that. So, yeah. Well,
and I think too, like when I was like asking you, and I think a lot of times, even during conflict or a lot of times when we're not even in conflict, I think we get caught up in wanting to be heard and right and like heard and agreed with. Whereas like I knew I didn't agree with the things that you were saying to me and the way that you were acting, but I was genuine in wanting to understand what was happening with you
Yeah.
and what was going on with you. And I think that's one of the bigger barriers to communication, listening, understanding, because I wanted to tell you, I know why you're doing this. I know how to fix it. I know this, that, and the other. But I also, from all the classes that we teach and we go through, I know that that's not what you need. You need to be understood. So I need to be able to sit and listen and hear what's going on from your perspective. And
Yeah, I would
even
have walked
though,
away if you didn't
oh,
know
for
did all that.
sure, for sure. And so, like, I think even though I had 80% of the puzzle, I definitely gained insight from the things that you were telling me as I was listening and sitting there trying to understand what you were going through.
Yeah.
And I hope you also gained some insight to where I was coming from. Like, I'm sure you didn't agree with me making you sit there and talk to me and like going through this and wanting to re-record. But I hope that you also felt like, okay, I kind of am understanding a little bit more. I don't really agree with it, but I understand what she's saying and why she's saying it a little bit more.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. So that's where we have a pretty awesome, in my opinion, totally unbiased, communication, conflict resolution skill called the US card. And if you've ever been through an Adventures in Marriage class, if you haven't, and you're in Florida, let me tell you, there's a bunch of free ones probably right around the corner from you. You can find them on aimclasses.org. But they will teach you this skill, this conflict resolution skill. And it's one thing that people walk in, they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. And then they leave and they're like, wow, that was different than I've ever been able to do conflict before.
100%.
And I think, again, it's because you're walking in and you're getting down to really what is happening underneath. Like there's always going to be something, like you said, it's not going to be, the toothpaste cap not being put on the toothpaste. Like you've said that before. And it's never about that. It's about something underneath. And so it really is an amazing skill at like pulling back those layers and figuring out what's really going on. And I can't tell you like how many couples I see, even us, when we go through it, like just having that revelation and like just honestly allowing that emotion to come out, and then having a moment where you're able to get a puzzle piece you literally could not figure out before click into place, and you just have this like a whole new level of understanding, emotional connection, and you're just like, I didn't know that. I feel so much closer to you now because I understand. I get what you're going through. And I think that's what's so powerful about the tool and why it's like one of the more popular ones when we do teach it.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Thank you for completely agreeing. You want to talk about your experience with the US card?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I mean, my experience with US card has been, it's helped me take control of my thoughts. It's helped me take control of like what I'm feeling and what I should say. Because I mean, one of the reasons why we do it is because when conflict happens, your mind moves incredibly fast.
Right.
Too fast for you to understand really and break down. So what the card does is it slows down conflict. It slows your brain down to properly think about these things like, I feel this way, I regret this, I resent this, I'm hurt by this, I want this, I hope this.
Right.
The whole circle shows you how to address what's hurting you, how to talk to the person that's hurt you.
Yeah.
And then also how to resolve that and say, I hope it can change by this.
Right.
It helps you say, I want this to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And I want a smart request, I want, and then like I said, it has hope for the end. Like I hope this, I want this. Like my hope, I keep saying the same, my hope, but like, yeah, it wants you to resolve it. It shows you how to talk about it and how to resolve it. That's one of the biggest things about it. Like we can break it down in a future episode if people want us to, but for people that haven't been through a class, but it's such a big thing for it. And, maybe in the video version, we'll throw up a picture of it just so people know what we're talking about. But yeah, it's such a huge thing for marriage to have conflict resolution and proper communication.
Yeah. I was going to say, would you talk a little bit about how it really does feel bonding and like we feel closer after we, like specifically us?
Yeah, it's an emotional bonding. Like you open up your emotional intimacy to be like, hey, and it can be scary.
Right.
But hopefully, with your partner, you can open up and be emotionally intimate and be vulnerable to talk about those things and say like, hey, this is what's happening. But usually at the end of it, like, I'm so much more in love with you. And like, I feel so close to you. And like, genuinely, it makes me want to have sex because of the emotional intimacy and like growing and the bonding together to be like, man, we figured that out.
Right.
I now want to be physically intimate with you because that felt amazing. I'm so happy that we could have gotten through that.
Right. I think that that's not an uncommon reaction.
Yeah, a lot of people have that reaction to
our skills. Yeah. And I think too, for me, when I go through it and I get to be the speaker and you're listening, I feel understood. And I feel like not only do you understand, but I've actually also been able to process through what I'm feeling about this issue or this thing that is between us, because I move so fast. I do not give my I don't give myself time to process. Like I just know that I'm hurt and I know we need to talk about it, but I don't really know why. But with all of the prompts, I'm like, and I assume this, and then I have to force myself to actually give a good answer, because it's not fair to you to be like, oh, I noticed this. I assume this means you're angry. I guess it means you're angry, and I'm hateful. I'm upset because you're angry, and it hurts because you're angry. Like that's unfair. So when I force myself to peel all the layers back, that's when I'm not only feeling understood, but I'm also able to be like, oh my gosh, that's why I'm so upset, because I'm so bad at being slow and processing what I'm feeling.
Yeah, that's good.
Remember, we are now offering free classes in Florida through our Healthy Marriage Initiative grant. If you are interested, check out livethelife.org/aim. If you are military and you are interested in learning more about this program, you can reach out to us by emailing ashley@livethelife.org. Thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you feel educated, encouraged, and empowered to thrive in whatever relationship you're in.